Ladies and gentlemen, grief strikes like a searing at the soul, drowning the mind. In its surge, we feel powerless, Marcus Aurelius said, but it is not the grief itself that destroys us, it is our judgment of it. Pain is part of life's design, Marcus Aurelius said, a sign that we have dared to love, to hope, to risk. To grieve is not to be broken, it is to be human. What defines us is not our sorrow, but how we meet it. Grief is an inescapable part of life. It touches all who dare to love. Marcus Aurelius said, to care, to invest their hopes and hearts in some themselves. When we grieve, it is not because we are fragile or broken. Marcus Aurelius said, it is because we are alive, deeply and truly. The dear of soul we've mirrors the depth of the bond we had. In this way, Marcus Aurelius said, a grief is not a flaw in our nature, but a reflection of Capanex. The ability to connect, to cherish, to lose, Marcus Aurelius said, and still to endure. In moments of loss, it is tempting to believe that strong people do not grieve. Marcus Aurelius said that the shedding of tears or the shattering is somehow a failure. But this belief is false. Marcus Aurelius said, true strength is not found in the denial of motion, but experience it fully without surrendering to it. Grief, far from being a weakness, is a testimony to courage. The courage to feel pain without hiding. Marcus Aurelius said, the courage to stand in the ruins of what and to face the emptiness left behind. There is no shame in sorrow. Marcus hurt is to have cared. To mourn is to honor what was meaningful. Pretending otherwise, Marcus Aurelius said, suppressing our emotions or masking them with fortalies do not make us stronger, it makes us hollow. Grief, when acknowledged, does its work in shaping us. It stretches the soul, deepening our capacity for empathy, for patience, for understanding. It tempers us like fire tempers steel, not by destroying, but by refining. Often, the world demands we move on quickly, as if the passage of time should erase the weight of a lose. But grief follows no schedule. It rises and falls like a tide, Marcus Aurelius said, surprising us when we think we have crossed beyond it. And too is natural. Healing is not linear, and neither is mourning. Marcus Aurelius said, every moment of sorrow is part of a necessary growth that fortifies the spirit rather than diminishing it. Marcus Aurelius said, there is no timeline for the heart to find its balance again. When we are grieving, Marcus Aurelius said, it can feel as if the world is spinning without us, that everyone else is stronger, better equipped to handle loss. Marcus Aurelius said, but the truth is simpler. Those who seem unshaken have learned to carry their grief quietly, or have yet to face it. Marcus Aurelius said, no one is immune. The wisest among us are not those who avoid grief, but those who meet it with grace. Marcus Aurelius said, knowing that suffering is not the enemy, but part being human. The heart that grieves is the heart that has lived. Marcus Aurelius said, it is proof that you have dared to love in a world where everything is temporary. Marcus Aurelius said, it is proof that you have invested yourself years cruel, and in that investment, even in sorrow, Marcus Aurelius said, there is something unbreakable, something noble. Grieve it weakens soul, it awakens it to its full strength, its full range. Aurelius said, its full beauty. Life is unpredictable and often out of control, striking without warning or mercy. Loss, disappointment, betrayal, sickness. None of these can be entirely avoided, no matter how carefully we live. Marcus Aurelius said, yet within this uncertain world, one power remains the power to choose our response. Marcus Aurelius said, it is not the nature of the event that defines if we take toward it. The world may wound us, Marcus Aurelius said, but how we carry those wounds, how we answer to adversity, is what shapes the soul. Marcus Aurelius said, it is easy to fall into the belief that happiness and depend on what happens around us, that if only circumstances were right, Marcus Aurelius said, we would be content. But external conditions are neon within our command. They shift like the wind. Marcus Aurelius said, you caring nothing for our hopes. To build our inner foundation is to guarantee despair. Marcus Aurelius' strength lies in anchoring ourselves to what cannot be taken away. Our will, our judgment. Marcus Aurelius said, our ability to decide how we meet the blows of comes. The first instinct is often to protest. Marcus Aurelius said, to ask why we have been singled out for suffering. Questions lead nowhere. The universe does not negotiate. Misfortune is not a punishment, nor is reward. They fortunately conditions. Raw material placed in our hands. Marcus Aurelius said, what we craft from that material, whether something noble or through broken, is our true work. Marcus Aurelius said, no one can rob us of our ability to respond with dignity, patience, or courage unless we willingly surrender it. Aurelius said, some encounter tragedy and are destroyed by it, becoming bitter, resuming paralyzed. Others, facing the same weight of sorrow. Marcus Aurelius said, rise to a deeper compassion, a firmer wisdom, a greater resilience. The difference lies not in what happened to them, Marcus Aurelius said, but in what they chose to make of it. Our power is not the circumstances, but to command ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, that is the one arena where mastery is always possible, nautic the outside world becomes. Each challenge, each loss. Marcus Aurelius said, each humiliation can either be a stone, that stone we step on to climb higher. It is not destiny or luck that determines which will be, but our response. Marcus Aurelius said, even the harshest event carries within an opportunity, even opportunity to practice patience, to strengthen endurance. Marcus Aurelius said, to deepen understanding. These opportunities are numerous, they are often painful and lonely, but they are real. And they are ours to seize. To focus only on what have us a captive, at the mercy of every passing misfortune. To focus instead on our own response, is to live as a person undefeated even when wounded. The world may bring pain, but it cannot compel despair. It may bring loss, but it cannot touch honor. Marcus Aurelius said, this is the highest freedom, the freedom to decide we will be, no matter what the world gives or takes away. Marcus Aurelius said, strength is often misunderstood as resistance, the constant struggle against what life presents. Marcus Aurelius said, yet true strength does not begin with defiance, it begins with acceptance, before we can overcome anything. Marcus Aurelius said, we must first face it fully, without illusional acceptance and surrender. It is not giving up hope or ceasing to care. Marcus Aurelius said, acceptance is simply the courage to see things exactly as they are, without wishing them to be different. Marcus Aurelius said, without masking them in false stories or angry fupid reality, we waste our energy fighting shadows. Marcus Aurelius said, we deny ourselves the chance to act wisely because we are too busy wishing the world were something it is not. Marcus Aurelius said, pain becomes heavier when we refuse to acknowledge, when we insist it should not have happened. Marcus Aurelius said, life itself becomes an unbearable burden when we fear that it must conform to our expectations. Marcus Aurelius said, acceptance strips away these illusions and leaves us standing on the ground of truth. Marcus Aurelius said, only from that ground can strength truly rise. To mean to like or approve. It means to recognize, Marcus said, to acknowledge without resistance. Grief, failure or disappointment. These are harsh realities. Marcus Aurelius said, no strength is gained by pretending they do not wound us. Instead, strength begins when we look directly at what is painful. Marcus Aurelius said, allow it to touch us and yet remain standing. To accept reality is to choose clarity over fantasy. Aurelius said, to prefer truth over comforting lies. It is the first and hardest step toward any real healing or growth. Marcus Aurelius said, there is a strange kind of peace that follows sculling against what cannot be changed. Our minds become lighter, our hearts less burdened. In that space, courage can grow. In that space, Marcus Aurelius said, new paths can be seen that were hidden before. By acceptance, we free ourselves to focus on what we can do next. Without acceptance, we are trapped in endless circuits, rigor, or denial. with acceptance. Marcus Aurelius said, even the most painful situation can become a strength rather than an ending. Strength is not about avoiding hardship, Aurelius said. It is about meeting hardship with a clear eye. Acceptance gives us that clarity. It roots us in reality, Marcus Aurelius said, and from reality we can build something enduring. We can endure, Marcus Aurelius said, and we can eventually overcome. But not if we are still things are other than they are. Pretending drains us. Marcus Aurelius said, acceptance empowers us. In the face of grief, it is not pretending we are unaffected that makes us strong. Marcus Aurelius said, it is accepting the grief and still choosing to grieve the face of failure. It is not denial that fuels the next attempt. Marcus Aurelius said, but the clear acceptance of what went wrong and the will to begin again. Every true triumph, every deep recovery. Marcus Aurelius said, every powerful transformation begins with then painful cut, the acceptance of reality. Only then can strength be called forth from within. Suffering often feels like it defines us. In moments pain, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, Marcus Aurelius said, it can seem as though our very identity is consuming during. We become our pain. A body racked with illness, Marcus Aurelius said, a mind overwhelmed with sorrow, a heart heavy with luring wraps itself around our soul, weaving its threads into every thought, every actual. But this is an illusion. We are not our suffering. Aurelius said, suffering may be a part of our experience, but you should not dictate who we are. Marcus Aurelius said, we often mistake our pain for our identity because the in it. When grief strikes, Marcus Aurelius said, it seems as though we are nothing but grief. When failure comes, it feels though we are nothing but failure, Aurelius said. But suffering is transient. It is not permanent. Our identity is built on what happens to us, but on how we respond to it. Marcus Aurelius said, the truth is, we are much more than the sum of our suffering. We are the consciousness observing it, the inner strength that moves through it, and the use rise from it. Suffering is inevitable, a natural part of life. It does not make us lesser, nor does it define our worth. Pain is simply one of the many human experiences we go through, and it comes in waves. Marcus Aurelius said, but the mistake comes when we think that suffering we are, when we let it sink into our being and lose sight of everything else we are capable of. Marcus Aurelius said, we are the sum of our actions, our choices, our intentions. Our suffering may be a chapter in our story, Marcus Aurelius said, but it is not the title. To say that we are not our is uni the reality of what we are going through, Marcus Aurelius said. It's to acknowledge that while suffering may certain ways, it does not strip us of our essential being, Marcus Aurelius said. Even in the darkest moments, we have the ability to engage with our suffering. We can allow it to break us, Marcus Aurelius said, or we can use it as a stepping stone to discover depth, strength, wisdom, and compassion. Marcus Aurelius said, consider how many people throughout history have suffering, yet they were never defined by it. Rather, Marcus Aurelius said, their suffering became the very thing that led to transformation, to profound change, to growth. The strength to endure, Aurelius said, to rise above pain is what truly defines us. It is the grace which we carry our wounds, the wisdom we gain from our losses, Marcus Aurelius said, and the love we offer to others in the midst of always shapes who we are. Marcus Aurelius said, we are the consciousness that can observe suffering, feel it, and then choose not to be consumed by it. We can learn from it, Aurelius said, grow through it, and become stronger because self. But we are not the suffering itself. We are not defined by what happens to us, Marcus Aurelius said. We are defined by how we choose to live, how we choose to rise above what we endure. Personal failure, Marcus Aurelius said, or an overwhelming challenge that seems to come in the face of adversity, it's easy to feel small, helpless, and defeated. Yet, Aurelius said, It is precisely through adversity that we discover the depth of our own strength, a strength that often remains hidden until we are tested. Marcus Aurelius said, "The true measure of our resilience and character is revealed not in times of comfort and ease, but in moments of struggle. When life presents us with difficulties," Marcus Aurelius said, "we are given the opportunity to tap into parts of ourselves that we might not have known existed." Marcus Aurelius said, "These hidden reserves of strength are not a pair everyday existence when life moves smoothly and predictably," Marcus Aurelius said, "but when we are pushed to the edge, when our limit is discover that we possess the capacity to endure, to adapt." Aurelius said, "And to rise. It is in adversity that we find the courage to continue when every part of us feels like giving up." Marcus Aurelius said, "This strength is not the kind that can be measured by the ease with which we face challenges." Marcus Aurelius said, "It is the kind of strength that comes from the heart of persistence. It's the strength of a person who refuses to quit, who stands tall even when their knees are weak." Marcus Aurelius said, "It's the strength of someone who dares to keep horror which seems uncertain, trusting that even in the struggle." Marcus Aurelius said, "There is something worthwhile to be learned. Adversity may break us down temporarily, but in the process, it also builds us up." Marcus Aurelius said, "It sculpts us into someone more resilient and more aware of our own potential." In the midst of hardship, Marcus Aurelius said, "We often discover parts of ourselves that were pumped, the ability to stay calm in chaos, to make difficult decisions under pressure," Marcus Aurelius said, "or to remain hopeful in the darkest of times. Thus, the youths that emerge when we are faced with challenges." Marcus Aurelius said, "We may not have known that we were capable of such until the moment demanded it. And in that moment, when we find ourselves drawing on strength we didn't realize we had, we understand just how much more we are capable of than we once believed." Adversity also teaches us valuable lessons about humility and perseverance. Marcus Aurelius said, "It shows us that strength does not always mean standing or conquering the world. Sometimes," Marcus Aurelius said, "it is the quiet strength to ask for help, to recognize that we don't have all the answers." Through adversity, Marcus Aurelius said, "We learn to lean into our vulnerability, to embrace discomfort knowing, and to trust that we can navigate through it." Marcus Aurelius said, "This process of adaptation, of growing strong hardship, is what reveals our hidden strength. What adversity truly offers us is the chance to evolve." Marcus Aurelius said, "It strips away the illusions of invulnerability and exposes our true capabilities." In the end, Aurelius said, "The strength we find in hardship is not just about overcoming the immediate challenge." Aurelius said, "It is about realizing that no matter how hard life may seem, we are never as weak as we fear. We are capable of more than we know. And it is adversity that brings that hidden power to light. Grief is a force that no one can escape. It comes to all of us, uninvited and often unwelcome, carrying with it a weight that can feel unbearable, whether it arrives as the loss of a loved one." Marcus Aurelius said, "The end of a relationship or the shattering of dreams has the power to tear apart the very fabric of our lives." Marcus Aurelius, "But what grief also brings, hidden beneath the surface of pain, is the potential for transformation." Marcus Aurelius said, "Growth through grief is not something we choose, woven then into the very nature of our experience." Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not an option, it is the natural course of the human journey." When we face grief, Aurelius said, we are faced not just with emotional turmoil, but with an opportunity for deep and profound change. Initially, Aurelius, this change may seem impossible. The pain feels too consuming to allow for anything positive to emerge from it, Aurelius said. But grief is not just an emotion, it is a catalyst. It forces us to confront the deepest parts of ourselves, our vulnerabilities. Marcus Aurelius said, our fears, our beliefs, and our values. We can see that ourselves more clearly than ever before. Marcus Aurelius said, We are stripped of our pretensions and dist nothing but the truth of our hearts. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is in this confrontation with ourselves that growth. We learn to accept the impermanence of life." Marcus Aurelius said, "We realize that nothing, not our loved ones, not our own lives, is guaranteed." Marcus Aurelius said, "This understanding can be jarring, but it frees us from the illusion that we can control the world." Marcus Aurelius said that we can protect ourselves from loss, and life will always go according to plan. Marcus Aurelius said, "Grief teaches us to hold our experiences loosely, the moments we have, and to approach life with greater humility." Marcus Aurelius, through this acceptance, we grow stronger, and more, we facing the unpredictable nature of existence with courage. Grief also fosters a deeper sense of empathy. When we have experienced profound loss, Marcus Aurelius said, we become more attuned to the suffering of others, and perhaps more than ever, the weight of emotional pain and the difficulty healing. This shared experience connects us to others in a way that joy and comfort cannot. Through grief, we learn the power of compassion. Marcus Aurelius said, "The value of offering a listening ear and the importance simply being present for someone else in their darkest moments." Maria said, "The person we become through grief is more impassioned and more attuned to the human condition." Moreover, Marcus Aurelius said, "Grief teaches us the power of resilience in the midst of overwhelming sorrow." We often surprise ourselves with our ability to continue when the path is unclear. We may stumble, we may fall. Marcus, we get back up, and with each step, we grow. Grief forces us to rebuild ourselves. Marcus Aurelius said, "To redefine who we are in the absence of what we've." The thesis, pointful though it may be, Marcus Aurelius said, is also where true strength is forged. It is through this rebuilding that we discover new layers of our character. Marcus Aurelius said, "Hidden depths of perseverance and the ability to even in the face of sorrow." Marcus Aurelius said, "Growth through grief is not a choice we make. It is the inevitable race of living fully." Marcus Aurelius said, of embracing the full spectrum of human experience, it is the price of love and attachment, of being deeply invested in life. Marcus Aurelius said, "And though grief may seem all-consuming, it affords of transformation, a transformation that, in time," Marcus Aurelius said, "leads us to a deeper, richer understanding of the world around us." Growth through grief is not an option. Marcus Aurelius said, "It is the very destiny of every heart that dares to feel as we stand in the face of grief." Marcus Aurelius said, "It may seem as though the world has gone dark, has gone pain, and that we will never be the same again. But in truth, we are not meant to be the same. Grief has a way of something greater, something more aware, more compassionate." Marcus Aurelius said, "More alive." It transforms us not by erasing what we've lost, but by us the strength we never knew we had, the depth of our resilience, and the capacity for love that endures beyond all hardship. So, Marcus Aurelius, when grief comes, and it will come for all of us, remember this: it is not an enemy, but a guide. It may tear you down, Marcus Aurelius said, but only to rebuild you, stronger and wiser than before. Growth through grief is not optional, it is destiny, and, when you emerge from it, Marcus Aurelius said, you will find that the pain you once feared has led to the most understanding of yourself and the world. Marcus Aurelius said, you will stand not as someone who has been broken, but as someone who has been transformed, and in that transformation, Marcus Aurelius said, you will find the power to live with greater purpose, greater empathy, and greater strength.